Welcome to Midnight Musings of a Christian Attorney. I'm your host, Lee Henning, and today's topic is whether there's anything good about STDs. Yep, the question is there anything good about sexually transmitted diseases? And at one time they were called venereal diseases, then STDs or sexually transmitted diseases. The current term, I guess the medical community likes to use is STI, sexually transmitted infections. But by whatever term, they're not a lot of fun. So there are two equally unhealthy and ungodly attitudes about sex. One is anything goes, if it feels good, do it. And the other one is to be prudish about it. Pretend like you never do it, or if you do it, at least never admit it, and sure as heck don't ever talk about it. Now, I'm going to introduce to you here quickly my .44 Magnum revolver, which is the gun I carry with me when I'm hiking in bear country. And I'll get back to this in a minute. In our society today, when it comes to sex, it's kind of an anything goes attitude, especially since the sexual revolution of the 60s. And today, the booty call is in. If it feels good, do it. In TVs and movies, the only question seems to be whether they're going to jump in the sack in the first, the second, or the third date. It's a foregone conclusion that they're going to have sex right away. And we've also heard it said in a lot of popular culture, hey, it's just sex. It's no big deal. Just sex. How many times have we heard that? And nowadays, the big deal isn't having sex. The big deal is, are they going to move in together and make a commitment? And, of course, the other one is, why people who have been, they have two kids together, they've been living together for 5 years, and then they decide they're going to have a big wedding. I don't know if you've been living together for 5 years and have two kids, why having a big wedding is a big deal. Seems to me you've already made the commitments. But that's sort of where our attitude is now in society. Of course, the other hand is the prudishness, and some Christians can be prudish about sex. The Bible is clear that sex in a monogamous marital relationship should be a blast. If you have any questions about that, read Proverbs 5:15-17, or read the Song of Solomon, which really is a metaphor all about sex in a marriage relationship. Now, back to today's topic, is there anything good about STDs? Let me talk about statistics for a minute. There are over 20 different types of STDs, some of the more common ones: gonorrhea, syphilis, HPV, chlamydia, herpes, hepatitis, HIV. I think we've heard of most of those. And the consequences of sexually transmitted diseases vary widely from sometimes you can get one, not even know you have it, all the way to death. But the really fascinating statistic, and I'm going to show this to you, and this is from the Center for Disease Control. There are currently over 110 million active cases of STDs in America. Over 110 million active sexually transmitted diseases today in America. And each year, 1 out of 4 U.S. teenagers will get an STD. And folks, a condom is no sure thing. It helps, but it's no sure thing. So back to the question, is there anything good about STDs? Well, if you're suffering from STD, I'm sorry, or if you have in the past, I'm sure many of you have or do. I'm especially sorry if you were innocent in your contraction of the disease. But is there anything good about it? Yeah, two things. First of all, sexually transmitted diseases are a reminder to us that there's consequences to sin. And if we realize in here and now there's consequences to sin, it gives us a chance to confess our sin to God, get right before God, get forgiveness, and that way we get to spend eternity with the guy who spoke the universe into existence. The second aspect about STDs, with the incredible widespread nature of STDs, this is where we come back to my friend, the .44 Magnum. I'm sure many of you have heard the term Russian roulette. Russian roulette is when you put a cartridge in the chamber, you spin the chamber, close it, so you don't know where that cartridge is, and then you take the partially loaded gun, put it to your head and pull the trigger. Well, with the incredible frequency of STDs, with 110 million active cases today, it's not like taking a gun with one chamber filled. It's like taking a gun with half the chambers filled, spinning it, closing it up, and then putting that gun to your head and pulling the trigger. So my point is, and frankly, if you're going to go out or you're going to go on a date and you're having trouble with your self-control, spend a few minutes on the internet looking at photographs of STDs. Particularly suggest you look at venereal warts. When you realize what the risk factor is and the danger factor, it's going to help you keep your panties up around your waist, because STDs aren't a lot of fun, a very common problem. And so yeah, I think there are sort of two good things about STDs. One, it helps us realize there's consequences to sin both in this life and in eternity. And secondly, it helps you keep you on the straight and narrow, at least from a sexual standpoint, if you realize your odds of catching an STD if you're engaged in some kind of extramarital or non-marital relationship in a sexual way are pretty darn high. So folks, thank you very much for listening. I'd be interested in your feedback. At the end of my Midnight Musings, I always give the discussion a rating. I'm going to give this a 90%, which means I'm pretty confident of everything I've said is accurate today. And in closing, let me say thank you for listening. Today's topic was, is there anything good about STDs? In Midnight Musings, we deal with issues of society, religion, Christianity, and the law. From my perspective, as a Christian who happens to be an attorney. Talk to you later.